So, good morning and welcome to you. So, how are you doing?
Well, fine, thanks. Always my pleasure to be on.
Always great to have you. Now, this morning we're speaking a little bit about some of the crime fighting measures that the government is employing. And one of that is bringing out the army to work alongside the TTBS. Now, first of all, give us your views on this strategy. Do you think that this would be effective in dealing with the crime that we have right now in Trinidad and even Tobago?
Yeah, it is very unfortunate when comments are made, and this has turned into a massive anti-crime tactical strategy. That is not true. So you're getting comments by the business sector and by criminologists who do not have a clue what is going on. This is something that is done every single year. This is known as standard operational procedure because of the traffic congestion, because of the number of persons all out in the street for Christmas shopping and going into carnival. Every single year since I was Minister of National Security almost 10 years ago and going all the way back, it is a document that is there in the Ministry of National Security. All that is done is that coming to the end of October, they changed the year 2015, 2016, 2017. The exact words are used. It is then taken, sent to cabinet. Cabinet approves it. It then goes to the president. The president gives the approval to bring out the 100 members of the Volunteer Defense Force. So this perception by criminologists and the business sector and religious leaders, wow, this is a fantastic plan. We welcome it. It sometimes makes you feel that certain persons they so want to please politicians, to let the politicians know, hey, look, I support you. This is not a crime plan, people. So, Mr. Criminologist and the business sector and religious leaders who say that this is a fantastic, massive crime plan. This is something that is done every single year. It is standard operational procedure. It is nothing strategic. It is not an avenue to reduce crime. And what happens is that the 100 members of the Volunteer Defense Force, which is now known as the Defense Force Reserves, in fact, those individuals, they may not be as highly trained as the regulars in the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. So these 100 come now and they will man the camps, guard the different camps that the regulars would have done to allow the regulars to have more time to come out and to support the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. My concern about that is that in March this year, the Chief of Defense Staff, who actually joined the Defense Force with me on the exact day years ago, he said that as the Chief of Defense Staff, the Defense Force is not trained to support the police. And because of that, if you believe as the Chief of Defense Staff they are not trained and you do not believe that is the role and function, first it shows that you as the Chief of Defense Staff, you do not know the role and function of the Defense Force because the Defense Force, part of their role and function is as an aid to civil power and to support and complement the police when required. And also, he does not understand the training of the Defense Force because the soldiers are trained in patrols, in roadblocks, in cordon and search, in vehicle checkpoints, in the things that are done for the last few decades, whether you call it under the special anti-crime unit SORT, the Special Operation Response Team SORT, the IATF, and all of these different things have been done. So for the Chief of Defense Staff to be hesitant by stating that they are not trained and he does not think that they should be doing it, then why bother to bring out the 100 in the first place? Because it means that it makes the only value is that 100 volunteers will now get 3 months full salary, whereas before they would not get. And that is the unfortunate thing. This is done in Jamaica. Jamaica, there are 12 patrols that go out constantly, 24/7, working with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It is important that the Defense Force justifies their existence. I was in the Defense Force for 17 years. I know the quality of the Defense Force, their training, their capability. And this is what they can do. This is what they should do. They do not have powers of arrest, but what they do is they complement the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It provides numerical superiority to peg back criminal elements. The police officers will be the one to charge individuals because the soldiers would not have that degree of powers of arrest unless they're regimental police. That is how it is done. But if you have a Chief of Defense Staff, as I said, who's not aware of the training, who's not aware of the capability, then we may not see it. And a final point on that, it made itself obvious during the Black Lives Matter, during the COVID pandemic, 150 men armed with Molotov cocktails, with bottles, with pipe, they were coming down Frederick Street to destroy Porter's Plain. These are more persons than would have been there during the attempted coup. And not one member of the Defense Force came out to support me as the Commissioner of Police. It is no fault of the soldiers and sailors. They were willing to come out, but they were not, and it took the police service alone to peg back these individuals. Had they not done that, Porter's Plain would have been flattened.
Now, what would you say is the better option in terms, or what are some of the better strategies that the government can employ at this point in time when we're seeing crime rising to some crazy levels? I mean, we're seeing the amount of murders that are being recorded daily, especially in Trinidad. What can be done? What are the things that the government is missing in this whole conversation about crime?
Firstly, the government continues to put their focus on attacking political opponents, misleading the country. Fitzgerald not once has he made a comment to state this is the new strategic objective, these are the new tactical plan able to peg back criminals. He doesn't know, he's clueless. In fact, he said it's not his role and function. So you have a situation where almost 100% of the murders have been by firearms have been committed by illegal firearms. But Fitzgerald Hines has not made one comment as to how he will deal with it because he doesn't know, poor guy. What he does know is knowing how to attack political opponents. So that's why he will continue to speak about legal firearms that have been instrumental to help persons and save their lives. So that is the first thing that should be done. The government should put focus where it is, trying to serve the country. The country is being drowned in blood. And all you do is speak about political opponents. That's one. Two, there were over 100 different policies that we implemented as the Commissioner of Police and as Minister of National Security, and it worked. In that period, 2013 to 2015, it was the highest reduction in serious crime in 30 years. In 2020, under my watch as Commissioner of Police, it was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. There were policies, plans, programs, objectives, units. All of these things have been shut down and dismantled. Instead of being petty politically, do what is required, reboot it, reignite it, and you will see the difference because the criminals are no longer seeing the deterrent. They are not seeing the high visibility. They are not seeing the rapid response. So the product of opportunity, as we speak on about the main focus about the Army and the TTPS teaming up to fight crime, there it is. When I'm back in that position in 18 odd months, 16 odd months to be able to push policies, it is the same thing that I would have done when I was Minister of National Security. There was a situation in 2014 where I think a police officer was shot in Lavantil. And I said, if you touch one, you touch all. And we put out over 100 plus soldiers in Lavantil to work with the police service. And for 100 plus days, there was one murder in Lavantil, one murder. It was the safest Lavantil was ever. And that was a domestic violence matter. And it showed that if the Army works with the TTPS, it can peg back the criminal elements. It puts the fear into the criminals. So that is what I will do. Not a cosmetic document that is done based on a cut and paste of 100 volunteers, but we have 5,000 members of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. I will take half of them and bring them out with the police and flood the streets with soldiers working with the police officers, numerical superiority. It will peg back the criminals. We have 5,000 qualified, trained persons in the Defense Force that are there, sitting down in a camp, waiting for a call. And the call is not being made because we have an incompetent government not understanding how powerful the Defense Force can be to peg back criminal elements. It makes you wonder, is it incompetence or is there a deliberate agenda to assist criminals in this country?
Now we're seeing quite a lot of conversation about guns and fighting it on a regional level. We saw earlier this year there was that CARICOM conference about treating health as a public health treating crime, as a public health issue. We saw that the Attorney General was out at the OAS meeting discussing guns, crime, guns, and violence, and so on. But is the government taking the right approach in terms of addressing the gun violence that we have here, getting guns off the street? Because we're only seeing it at the conversation at a regional level where it's saying, let's stop the guns from getting into the Caribbean region. But is there more that can be done?
Yeah, definitely. It seems that there's not a political will or it's just blatant incompetence. When I was Commissioner of Police, I drafted a document to explain and help the Prime Minister because it seemed that his National Security Council did not have a clue. The politicians, they do not understand tactics, strategy, how to deal with law enforcement. And the situation we have now, the US confirmed that over 97% of the illegal firearms that enter Trinidad and Tobago is from our legitimate ports of entry. So all of this rumshuck talk you hear about the OPVs and guns coming from Venezuela, nonsense. Few weapons muskets or outdated weapons, sophisticated assault weapons same criminals have on arrest comes from our legitimate ports of entry. It shows that our porous borders is not so much about persons entering illegally, but in our ports. And what is being done about it? Nothing. So for 8 years, you as a government, you have not lifted a finger to try to crack the situation and to curb it. And there's nothing. This is not to point fingers at customs. The same way you have rogue elements in the police service, you will have in customs. So that one night you have that one rogue customs officer, that one rogue stevedore, that one rogue driver, that one rogue watchman who's at the front gate. They all work on that same night. A container is going to leave there unchecked. We misplace, listen to the words, misplace 10 containers annually. They leave the port without being checked. So as much as the police can do their job and seize 800 odd firearms annually, that's about 8,000 in a decade, that could come back into the streets in one night by a container packed with weapons. It shows how important it is to secure our legitimate ports of entry. I drafted the Border Protection Unit to explain to the Prime Minister, you need to put persons inside here, undercover operatives, and not just customs having full control of the port, but a team fully polygraphed, background check done, and you monitor them closely, involving representatives from customs, immigration, coast guard, army, police, private security, all working together, monitoring each other, the guards guarding the guards. That is how we are going to peg back and reduce illegal firearms from coming through our ports. Secondly, technology. I provided 2 mobile scanners so that they could look at the vehicles or containers to see if weapons are inside. They pulled the plug on it as soon as I left. What was the reason for that? And then, obviously, as I mentioned, having good dialogue with our international allies. I signed a bilateral agreement with Colombia and Venezuela. It fell flat after I left as Minister of National Security. I signed a bilateral agreement with NYPD. I with Miami Police Chief to give us intelligence with illegal weapons coming through their ports into Trinidad. And nothing was done after I left. Because remember, anything that enters Miami, for example, is properly checked. But anything that leaves, they don't care. They're not checking. The responsibility is on us. So those are the things that need to be done. They're not being done. Illegal weapons are coming in. But all Fitzgerald Hines continues to speak about is illegal firearms. And he continues to mislead the country. And that is unfortunate because he seems to spend all his time trying to put focus on him being a politician than being a patriot, spending more time to mislead the country with lies put into political opponents than trying to find solutions to reduce crime.
So if I understand things a little bit better, you are also saying that, going to the US and saying to the US that they need to make sure that that they monitor the guns that are leaving their shores. Is that a good strategy or is that a bad strategy?
No, it's not. The US, that is not their business. What leaves the port of Miami? They are not going to do a stringent check of what is leaving the United States. I don't blame them. Their focus is on what enters the United States. So they are going to do a proper check to make sure drugs, illegal weapons, human trafficking, that is their focus. What is going out is not their responsibility. The responsibility is on where it is landing. So they are not going to put emphasis on that. However, being our international allies, obviously they are US citizens here, they will want to support us. They would indeed be shocked to know that why would the government be giving a border protection unit draft and you have not implemented it. It would be done immediately. I have no intention for a honeymoon period when I become part of a government in the next 18, 16 odd months. And immediately, the things that I have, it is a roadmap. It's not a manifesto. It will be systematic policies. You will be there to immediately peg back criminals. Exactly what I did as the Minister of National Security and the Commissioner of Police, working closely with our US allies, and that is what is required. They can provide us with proper intelligence that can say, look, these individuals are involved in something. You might need to monitor these containers from this company. That's what they can do. They can give us advice and support. They are not going to do stringent searches of containers leaving Miami to get to Trinidad. That is not their job. That is not their responsibility. That is not their focus. What enters Miami or New York, that is what their focus is on. So we need to do our job back at home and not just try to hope that our international allies are going to do the job for us.
All right, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Gary Griffith, for giving us your viewpoints on the situation with crime, and we're certainly looking forward to see what can happen in the future.
My pleasure. Take care.
All right.